Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Beyond the Pivot podcast, podcast that brings you insights across the African continent and spotlighting the diverse entrepreneurs, investors, and key ecosystem players that we have across the continent. Today, I'm super excited because I have a friend and a founder and CEO of AgriPredict. Her name is Cassandra Mtine, and she will be telling us about some of the awesome stuff that AgriPredict has been doing, everything from weather forecasting, early disease detection, and early warning systems that they do. And so I'm super excited and I can't wait to have the conversation with Cassandra. Cassandra, how are you? And glad to have you today.
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. And again, congrats again on the podcast.
Thank you for accepting to be our guest with only a few subscribers. And we're hoping that you will subscribe as well and add to our subscriber
I'll be
list.
there.
And to
I'll be one
anyone
of
out
them.
there, yes, and to anyone out there that enjoys our content but hasn't subscribed, please subscribe. If it's Martin that you don't like, he's not joining us today, so please at least subscribe. If it's me that you don't like, I mean, what's there not to like about me? No, I'm playing.
Come on, I agree.
But again, thank you so much, Cassandra. And yeah, maybe just to kick us off. So you are in the farming sector, right? Agriculture space. And I'd like to think of it as agricultural entrepreneurship is similar to farming, right? It requires a lot of patience, nurturing, and there's a lot of surprises. So if you were to describe entrepreneurship in terms of a crop, what would you say you're growing at AgriPredict?
Wow. First, I must confess, I haven't grown a lot of things, even though I'm in the farming space. So that's my disclaimer. But because I would say maize, and I know this sounds like, okay, because everybody knows maize. But because in this country, in Zambia, maize represents stability. So if we have an abundance, we're talking about proper food supplies. It represents, it's a very national staple crop. So everyone loves Shima. It's so Zambian. So I would say maize.
Brilliant. And so maybe just to kick us off, I do know you have worked in quite a number of sectors, from drugs, actually. I was looking at your profile.
Yes.
Involved in drugs. Well, not like that. For someone who's wondering, it's not the drugs you're thinking about. But basically, you have been involved also in the environmental space, and now you are leading AgriPredict as a CEO. Could you kind of maybe just give us some background about yourself? How did you find yourself in the agriculture sector, and what led you here?
Great, thanks. So I think my journey started off with, I'll start with my academic background because it sort of led me to where I started my professional career. But my academic background is in environmental economics and public policy. And then that's how that got me into the drug space, as you put it. But it was an NGO that was improving the process of drug development in the US. So I got the opportunity to work with them. And then it was time for me to move back home because I really wanted to do whatever my part meant. I'm still in the process of figuring that out, but I knew that I wanted to be home to make a difference and to just set that establishment here at home. So that's what pretty much got me back here. But really the thread throughout all my career paths has been the passion to make a difference, the passion to impact people. And so that's what led me to the NGO. And then when I got back, actually, I was part of another business that was in food delivery, actually. So that, again, was part of my piece of making a difference and helping people deliver food to their homes that were from people in the diaspora, but they could deliver to families in some of the rural areas here in Zambia. That then got me to AgriPredict because again it was still about how do you create a difference, how do we really create impact, and that's what got me to AgriPredict.
Thanks for that. So our audience is quite broad. We have an audience from Europe, the US, and Africa as well. And these are entrepreneurs, investors, and just enthusiasts about the topics that we get to share here. So I'd just like to double click on something, especially while you're thinking or reflecting about coming back home. We have part of our audiences that are thinking about either beginning their investment journey in Africa or that entrepreneurship journey in Africa. Was there key frustrations maybe that were there for you that were like, hey, I think I don't want to be part of this environment here while you're away? and I'll rather be home and build that something that's more meaningful.
So you mean frustrations where I was before, or frustrations after I
Yeah.
moved back? Where I was there. Okay.
Yes, like some frustration. Was it some frustration where you were? Yeah.
No, actually, which is why everybody was so surprised when I said I want to move. I had a great job. I was making money. I got to travel around the US, Europe. So really it was a personal passion that I knew there was always something that I knew I wanted to come home. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what space I was going to be in. I just knew I needed to be home. And actually my dream job was the UN. So I thought I would come back and work for the UN. That's what I thought I was going to do. But in terms of challenges, no, I had none. I really, really had a great network of people there. Like as I mentioned, I had a good job, great experience. So I wouldn't say I experienced frustrations.
So I'm looking at, okay, so a shift there is you're looking at possibly your dream job having been working it was working for the UN, right? But
Yes,
now
that was
here
my
you
dream
are,
job.
you're in the entrepreneurship space.
Yes, I
What was
wouldn't
that?
have thought.
What caused the shift?
And when I got back to tell you which UN did I not apply to? Because I thought this is where I need to be. I have the experience, I have the paperwork, I have the degrees. So this should be a no brainer. And I'm going to apply everywhere, if not in the UN, somewhere in the public space that I thought was related to the UN. But alas, I didn't get a response. I didn't get a call back. So that sort of got me now with the experience that I had. I remember somebody asked me if I could, I think I started off with writing a proposal. Somebody asked, could you help me with a proposal? And I thought, okay, I can do this. So that's how that journey started. Let me start off by writing a proposal, and then it sort of went into consultancy. And then I did research for an NGO that was working on some project for the mines. So I got to tour the copper belt. But really, it's not, everything sort of started as not me thinking this is what I want to do. It's sort of circumstances led to it. People asked one thing led to another. And then my friend at the time, who we were running Shops Ed with at the time, already had this conversation when we were back in the US together about, this is something we could endure together or we could run together. So with that was sort of part-time here. But when I first came, I thought it would be all about the UN.
And have you ever had, because now you're in the agriculture space, right? So from consultancy, I bet consultancy could be some part of your taste of entrepreneurship, I guess. Was it your first taste of entrepreneurship? I think to
Yes.
some extent it is. And is that what inspired you now to get into the agriculture sector and the other businesses that you were involved in as well?
The inspiration is what difference we can make. That's my inspiration. So it went from one step to another, seeing that clearer picture and having a bigger opportunity to make a difference. So that for me was the inspiration.
Brilliant. And so we're talking about making a difference, right? I would like you to give our audience an overview of the mission, the core mission of AgriPredict, and what critical problem you get to solve for your customers and beneficiaries.
Yes, thanks for that question. My favorite topic. So basically, AgriPredict's mission is to support small-scale farmers and really in their challenges with access to vital on-demand agricultural information. And when we first started our first pilot was in 2019. Our first service back then was focused on disease detection, right? Because the previous year, Zambia was not the first time hit, but it was the year that it was quite devastating. We were hit by the fall armyworm. And I believe that was the year that everybody now knew what a fall armyworm was, because it was, it was everywhere and it impacted our small scale farmers quite a bit. So we started off with that service, took that first year into pilot, and it was also a very defining year for AgriPredict because we thought, this is it. This is exactly what the farmers need. We've solved the problem. But on the ground, it was a completely different case. So farmers would say, great, Cassie, now you've told me what's wrong with my crop, but I still don't have access to the weather. I still don't know when it's going to rain. I still don't know how I'm going to get this crop to the market. And guess what? I don't have money to buy what, treatment you said I needed to buy. So we knew focusing on disease detection alone still left the farmer at a disadvantage. So that brought us to a completely different approach in terms of how we were now solving the problems for small scale farmers. Also, other facts that we realized in that pilot was poor internet connectivity in these rural areas and poor penetration of smartphones. And back then we needed a mobile application to take a picture and then, you would get information. So that switched again. Great year because it really defined how things move for AgriPredict going forward. We now have a very much farmer-centric approach to how we do things, and it is now an ecosystem approach as well. So now we have these services that I'll mention shortly, but surrounded by the farmer to allow them to have a service throughout their journey. So we have weather, early warning system, market access, extension services, and agro deals.
Brilliant. When I did some research on small scale farmers, I saw that in Europe, it's defined based on two things. It's a combination of two things. There's a land area, which is usually often less than 5 hectares. And they also look at economic output, which is about 25,000 US dollars. And anyone that falls within that range is a smallholder farmer. I think for the US, it was even higher. Someone who could reach maximum of about 350,000 US dollars would be considered as being part of a small family farm.
Wow.
Is that the case for the small scale farmers that you work with as well?
No. Yes. So by definition, the small scale farmers actually, yes, they also fall in the brackets of less than 5 hectares as well. That's also defined here by the Ministry of Agriculture. But in terms of the income, when we did our research with one of our partners, World Vision, really most of them fall in the brackets of maybe 3,000 per year, if as mostly generally as a small scale farmer. So this is very much small, and a lot of them actually have land. It's where they yes, it's US dollars. Yes, and where they actually grow is a much smaller portion than what they actually have land. They have land, big portions of land, some of them in these rural areas, but where they actually choose to grow their crops or raise their livestock is on a much smaller portion. Of course, because of resources, when you ask them, how come you can't expand this? It's, it require more inputs and things like that.
Okay, duly noted. So let's talk about the challenge and lessons learned, right? So you spoke to one thing, which is while you were building, I think while you're now trying to implement, you met the reality of,
yes,
oh, we built this, but the farmer needs something else.
Correct.
What are
Correct.
some of the other lessons that you've learned that could apply to other founders that are trying to build something similar within the Zambian ecosystem or other markets as well?
I have learned the importance of building to create value, because this is what I'll speak again for AgriPredict. This is what has allowed us, I think, we've been very fortunate to get amazing partnerships. We've been very fortunate to see the growth that we've seen on our platform and the usership that has grown very organically. But it's because we have really pushed the notion of creating value. What we say here at the office is, we fall in love with the problem and not the solution, so that we are constantly innovating, we're constantly getting feedback. We have somebody on the team, that's their whole role, is to be speaking to farmers, to get feedback, to do that kind of engagement, because it's them who are going to be using this. So I think that's an important one. Another important one is getting the right team. It's not always a money issue. It's a team issue. So that's I think an important lesson to learn very in the beginning stages, although sometimes it's a little bit hard to dealing with bootstrapping. But whatever scale you're at, it's important to always keep an eye on the team.
Talk to a unique problem. So the second part, which is building a team, right? And you being the CEO, what are some of the things that you've been deliberate about that help you build and retain a strong team at AgriPredict?
Good question. I've been very deliberate in taking time to know what are the interests for each and every team member. As you, yes, you've come to work for AgriPredict, but as you, what are your interests? And usually it starts off with, oh, yes, the vision is coming in line with AgriPredict. I'm like, yes, that's great. But what do you like? What are you into? And then I always try to come up with opportunities for them to get into something that they're interested in. We celebrate all kind of activities, maybe not celebrate, but we encourage all kinds of activities, even outside work environment. So it's not a secret if you have another project going on. It's not something to hide. It's something to be celebrated, because, you get to do something you're interested in outside of your work hours. But for me, I think the important thing is really understanding what it is somebody's passionate about and try to plug that into some aspect of the business. One of our engineers, actually, his passion is photography. So we use that whenever we have to do any kind of photography, and he's happy to do so. So whenever we have field trips, it's an exciting thing for him to do. But So I don't try to restrict people, but rather encourage and celebrate their uniqueness. You have to be excited about coming to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's
Yeah.
your outside of work activity that you're passionate about? I would guess, but let's hear it.
I run. Was that the guess?
Yes, that was a guess. That was a guess.
Yeah,
For our
I
audience
run.
who do not know. Yeah.
Yes, I run, and my goal is I need to get back to a full marathon. So my goal is to get sometime mid next year. I need to be back on my full marathon run. I haven't done that, and I keep moving it every year. So now, yeah, I hope I'll be able to achieve that next year.
Yep, I believe it. Entrepreneurs are crazy people. And I was about to mention that for our audience that don't know, Cassandra and myself are part of the same running club, which
Yes,
is great. I think it's a community that we've built, and I'm super proud of the work that we're doing at the Soccer Fitness Squad. Yeah, and maybe
absolutely.
bringing
Have you
back.
seen how people look at us weirdly at 4:30 in the morning? Have you had that?
Yes, yes, I know, I know. I'm feeling Martin, by the way. I'm like, Cassandra
People are
looks
coming
so
out from
young.
parties and there you are running. Yeah, there's people look, why are you running? You know what? Don't worry about this. So yeah. Anyways,
Absolutely. So your looks as well. You look so young. It's the running. It's the running.
it's the
So
running. I agree. It's the running. I was having a conversation yesterday. I get it a lot, by the way, and I happen to have with a potential partner. I can't mention yet, but so yesterday they were talking about. Oh, this is great, and it's amazing to see how young people are doing great things. I'm like, oh, okay. You can't correct it. It is okay. Thank you. Yes, this you need to cut out.
I am not. Yes,
So
yes.
no, I thank
But
God. I'm blessed. The running helps me. Yes.
beautiful. Yeah, passion. I always mention to the team, and I see myself, and I don't think I would thrive in any environment that would try to stifle my passions, or at least some
Mm-hmm.
of the things that make me flourish, you know? So, same here at the Hive. I think we have created an environment where it allows you to work remotely. So,
Yes.
gives me the flexibility to do my run in the morning, come back
Mm,
feeling refreshed, feeling energized, and continue doing my work. So
mm,
I like that you're creating that environment for others as well at AgriPredict.
yes.
I also wanted to mention and double click on something. So, because we spoke about smallholder farmers, and when I look at a pitch at Slush, I think that should have been by Muila, right?
Yes, it
He
was by
mentioned
Muila.
that at some point then, yes, the ambition was to reach 300,000 smallholder farmers and
Yes.
potentially keep growing by about 200,000 each year. Tell me,
Yes.
where are we in terms of that particular goal that we set for ourselves?
We are at 350,000, over 350,000 farmers now on our platform. And this doesn't account a project that we are starting with an initial 78,000 this year and adding on to 150 next year. So we are within range. It's taken a little longer because I think the Slush was in 2018. So it's taken a couple of years later, but our numbers are looking good.
Brilliant. And all of these are small scale farmers.
The majority are small scale farmers. We don't have many commercial farmers, although I said interestingly, we, we were having this conversation, I think it was a few months ago, about how a commercial farmer didn't know we were from AgriPredict, but was talking about how they had run into this USSD that gives them weather information, and they said you just have to dial the short code. And I said, oh, actually, great! It actually happens to be our platform, so they do use it, but the majority are small scale farmers. And in terms of
Oh, okay.
interactions, by the way, so we're at 16, a little bit over 16 million interactions on the platform.
Wow, that's lifetime of the platform, or what
Mm-hmm,
does that
mm-hmm.
look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
The majority
16
of it
million.
over the last year and a half. Unfortunately, when the drought hit, of course, devastating. But that's when we really got to see the numbers skyrocket. As expected, it was a need, and now our platform was there to provide information for the farmers. It's been very organic. I just wanted to add that. So very little marketing. So a lot of farmers are speaking to each other, and that's how they're getting to know.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the farmers are telling other farmers, like, what's the strategy then for this organic growth? Because 350,000 farmers or users, that's not a small number.
Mm.
That's a lot of farmers that you're working with.
Yes, and so yeah, they really, because when we do our engagements with the farmers, we ask, "How did you hear about this?" And it's usually the same: my uncle, my neighbor, and sometimes from completely different regions. Sometimes people call and ask, "Sorry, I heard about this in the Copper Belt. Do you also do this in Eastern Province?" It's like, yes, you can actually dial the same code and get information. So they really are speaking to each other. But I think it speaks to the need that's on the ground, and it speaks to the times that we're in for the importance of digital tools in this area.
And what role have partners played to just help fuel this growth for AgriPredict? Because I'd like to believe you have some
Yes,
partners that you have been working with. But
that
what role have
has
they really played to help you reach the scale?
we have had amazing partners. Yeah, this has been it's really God really, because the kind of partnerships have really been great. World Vision, SNV, some of our bigger partners as well. They in the beginning they allowed us first of all to run the pilot. So they allow us to do these direct interactions with farmers because we plug into their networks. So we don't have to, when we're doing these engagements, these community engagements, we're not starting from scratch. So it allows us to already plug into a program that's already running. Secondly, it allows us to spread our boots on the ground. So because we get to interact with their team in whatever area, they now can be an extension of AgriPredict in terms of knowing the product, being the face for any farmer that has questions that are in their programs, for example. And they know that they get to push this agenda because we are driving at the same goal. So it's really, really helped. And then also there's a lot of co-financing, which is always very helpful.
Tell me about the co-financing model. And before you do that, let me just re-emphasize, because you've mentioned a very key point there and could be added to the lesson for the other
Mm-hmm.
founders,
Mm-hmm.
which is the aspect of you don't have to do everything yourself, right?
Very
There
true.
are already networks out there that have been
Yes.
established for either a type of user that you're looking for, a type of
Mm-hmm.
customer that you're looking for. And
Mm-hmm.
it clearly shows that the partners help you get there quickly with little marketing. Yeah. You can speak to
Very
that, but
true.
also please tell us more about the co-financing bit as well.
Yes. So usually these, again, they're very unique. All our partnerships are quite unique. Where it has really helped with the co-financing piece. AgriPredict comes in with, let's say, our role in this would be the technology aspect. We are helping with market access in this area, for example, or providing early warning system in this area, and then um, the partner will come in with let's say cover logistics costs, for example, for AgriPredict to go to these areas, or they would cover some of the development costs for an early warning system, for example. So that's what I mean by co-financing it. That means we didn't have to come up with all the money at once, all the networks of the farmers at once. People come in with their piece in this great arena that we're trying to do, and then we play a role, and it's a beautiful song at the end of the day.
And that brings me to my next question, actually, because partly you've touched on some bit of financing, right? And as we
Mm-hmm.
know, fundraising in Africa is not easy for African founders, and
Yes.
statistics show that it's even a lot more difficult for women founders. So what's that journey look like? Yes, from a marketing perspective, it's been organic growth, but from
Mm-hmm.
a financial perspective, what's been your journey like raising funding, and how have you been able to build AgriPredict to where it is today?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the beginning, we thought that's all we needed. That's the whole energy was on we have to find investors. We have to speak to investors now. So I think I had some of these conversations a little too early, um, with some of these investors that we had the opportunity to speak to early on in our journey, because we didn't have the full even now you don't have to have the full story laid out, but you need to know your important milestones, and we didn't quite really have that. So I think we had that much later on, but in the beginning, so there was this emphasis of, that's what we needed to be doing, we need to be focusing on that. But then we took a step back and realized it's actually too early. Let's do with what we can now and build, and then we'll be able to tell the story then. So it shifted very much so, as from almost desperate mode to we gotta get this, to organic growth, to now investors are coming. So now it's who would we want to work with, or who would we want to partner with, who would we want to have investment with. So in the beginnings there were a lot of no's, and they were painful, because you think because I have X amount of money, they must be right. So it means we may need to do certain things the way they want to do them, the way that taking that step back really helped. Just, okay, let's just clear our milestone list, let's grow, and then we can go from there.
And what critical milestones? I think that's quite critical and important. So focusing firstly on the building, testing the products yourselves, understanding it deeply, and hitting those critical
Yes.
milestones.
Yes.
What critical milestones would you say you've been able to hit? I know you've mentioned one bit being the this high number of farmers that you're able to reach and impact. But what other key things or milestones have you reached that are worth mentioning to anyone listening out there who might be interested in AgriTech?
Yes, I will go back to partnerships because that for us speaks to the because it is an intentional strategy, by the way, for AgriPredict now. It has become an intentional strategy. So when we look at the number of partnerships and we look at the type of partnerships, because now it's not, sometimes there's, partnerships that can be just about money. Here's a certain amount of money, build, and once you're done, that's it. But our partnerships have evolved to where our visions are intertwined, to where we are now having long-term conversations about sustainability beyond a project, about how can AgriPredict come in to carry this load after this project is done, for example. So the type of partnerships have evolved, which is really great for us internally. It's a big deal. As I said, it's an important strategy for AgriPredict, and that speaks volumes for us.
Brilliant. And for someone who's wondering, are you an NGO or are you a for-profit business?
Yeah, we get that question sometimes, just sometimes. We are for profit. We're a social enterprise for profit. So we're registered as a for profit.
Brilliant. Because I asked that because one key thing that, or a challenge that people face that work with small scale farmers is the aspect of farmers do not pay, right?
Correct.
And I don't know if that's the case at AgriPredict. Maybe if you could give us more insight there towards the buying power of farmers, or how exactly do you make sure that this is sustainable for AgriPredict as well as you offer
Absolutely.
the service?
That's a fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. And you're very right. In fact, when we first started hitting our 100 mark, 150 in terms of numbers, there was a lot of push on subscription. So you need to do subscriptions because that's a natural way you're going to make money. But even back then, our vision obviously was long term and beyond, just year 2. I think that was year 3 at that time. And we thought if we were to put a subscription on this, just exactly what you're saying, would we guarantee that farmers would pay? And 2, this was a very new concept when we first started. So I don't know about you, I don't know if the product is worth spending my money on, why should I pay for a subscription, especially to somebody in the rural areas that has got much bigger things to pay money for? So even back then, we knew we needed to adjust our monetization model. So now, even what I just mentioned, these 5 services that I mentioned to you are free. So when you jump on the platform as a small scale farmer, you just dial a short code, you answer 3 simple questions to get you onboarded, and that's it. Where now the money comes in. I'll speak to the market access piece because that's one of the highest revenue sources right now. So we have 2 ways. So there's a market access which connects buyers and sellers on an individual basis. And then there's a market access that allows farmers to farm in groups and buy and sell in groups, so cooperatives. So now when we link cooperatives to bulk buyers, when there's a transaction happening there, that's when we get a transaction fee. That's where the fee comes in. And it took time to figure out that this was what was needed because, again, there's a lot of market access solutions out there. But for locally, we sat down with bulk buyers to figure out what is it that's your challenge working with small scale farmers. And we had a great opportunity I remember we had traveled to Northwestern province and we had an opportunity to sit with some really, really great bulk buyers there in honey production and in pineapple. They expressed how the challenge was very, very honest that, look, even if we say we're working with 3,000 farmers, for example, that doesn't translate to what the yield will be. So every season, I still don't know what I'm getting. It just sounds good that I'm working with 5,000 farmers, but I don't know what it means at the end of the day. On the other hand, payment is an issue. So in these rural areas, they still have to go with trunk loads of cash. Can you believe it? So they are the day before or 2 days before, they need to alert the bank that's in the local area, say they need to withdraw X amount, millions of kwacha. Drive that to the rural areas and then give out the farmers. But that again brings other issues, which is completely inconvenient, by the way. Traceability is an issue. And of course, it's a risk, right? If somebody's just kind of waiting for you to leave the bank or knows your direction, it's quite risky. So we tried to put all these factors and then we had the same conversations with the farmers. What is it that is preventing you from maybe producing more as a cooperative or getting to the production levels that are required or the quality levels. So we had those conversations separately. And the idea is now this market access that is unfortunately closed only to specific cooperatives that we're working with. But that is, it pretty much brings those two players together, but keeping in mind of the challenges that I have just highlighted so that it's a smooth conversation between the two.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So they get the data for free, and then you get to monetize based on the market access model that you have, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
so that makes me wonder sometimes. I'm like, okay, right now we're facing so much changes in climate. Weather is no longer predictable, right? And
True.
you don't know
True.
when you get the rains. It's a lot difficult for the farmers to get certain key inputs for their farms.
True.
Does small scale farming work then? Like, should we be thinking about different models? Is small scale farming really working, or how exactly can it be changed or remodeled to make sure that it works? I know you've mentioned partly the aspect of the group farming, which is
Yes.
cooperatives, but how
Yes.
can it work better? Because you can't rely. I'm guessing based on the current trends, you can't continue relying on just rain-fed, for example,
I
irrigation. Like,
agree.
how can we remodel and make small scale farming?
I agree. First of all, I still totally believe in small scale farmers. They, as hectic as it sounds, the way you've spelled it out, they still feed about or responsible for about 90% of what we eat in this country. So they play a very big role. And I really still will go back to information. As you have said, you've highlighted an important one, which is weather. And this was one of the big ones that the farmers really on the early on expressed that we don't know when it's going to rain anymore. This is affecting our yields. So information, access to that kind of information, I feel is an important key to unlock the potential that we're all singing about for small scale farmers. Because if they don't have that information, they can't apply it to their agricultural journey. That means we have less yields. So I really think that the missing key is information. And I don't mean information just in weather, that's a good one, but pricing, um, agricultural methods, but just in this space, the important aspect is access to this information.
That's brilliant. And I could feel the passion as you spoke about the small scale
Correct.
farmers. But yes, I think that's very important. Yes, like you said, 90% of most of the outputs and yields are being led by small scale farmers. And so now that you speak about information, I think the quality of the information
Mm-hmm.
becomes very critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
key challenge that we're aware of is that it's very difficult to come across high quality data or information that helps you even run your business. But I can only imagine what that looks like for a small scale farmer. How do you
True.
ensure data quality, be it from a weather perspective, disease control perspective? How do you ensure that you're providing and validating the data that you get to provide to the farmers?
That's great. So in the beginning, we worked with, again, this is where partnerships also came in. We didn't even know it was called partnerships back then, but we just knew that if we worked with these well researched organizations. So, for example, in the beginning, we got our first data set from CABI. Yes, CABI. CABI was our first organization that we got images for our first data set that we needed for the disease detection. And then we also got information from ZARI, so Zambia Agricultural Research Institute, in terms of I remember they had these pamphlets of different kinds of crops that from plantation or from planting all the way to harvest. So we got that information from them and tried to digest it into the platform. But in a nutshell, we make sure that we work with well-researched organizations, that this is what they do and this is what they breathe. So we are able to tap into that line for information.
Makes sense. So from because you are a tech and impact based organization, right? So
Mm-hmm.
from an impact perspective, beyond just the user count, to say we have 350,000
Yes.
reach of 350,000 small scale farmers, which is very important. And again, congratulations on hitting that big number.
Thank
To
you.
also the geographic reach, right? Which is, I'd like to believe that's nationwide reach that you have. Are there other key metrics that I think are important to you or that you keep tracking for the farmers that you continue to work with?
Yes. So for our cooperatives, I mentioned to you that there's a closed service for our cooperatives. When I mean closed, I mean only they have access to that particular service. We are also tracking yield. So by the end of this, we should be able to get numbers by the next end of next farming season. But we're able to track yields for them so that they're able to see before and after, and then giving them tailored information according to what they're growing and where they are. So we are mapping their fields. Even that is usually not done. So we're mapping the specific fields that they're on so that they get tailored information based on where they are and what they're growing. So every 4 days they get an SMS to help them along. If there is an issue, maybe a disease detected or the soil looks dry, we can either alert an extension officer in the area who can now be the boots on the ground, the expert boots on the ground to sort of assess what's happening. But also because, and let me just add to that, also because of these interactions that we have with farmers, we get to hear the stories of how AgriPredict has changed their lives, how now they're able to, especially the weather service, now because of this, they're now able to, they're now almost, it almost becomes a safety net. Let me call it safety net, because they're now able to grow according to the information that they've been provided. We've heard of stories of where a gentleman told us because of that he was able to pay his lobola. These are like real life stories. There's another gentleman that explained that because of that he is now is able to buy a television and a bicycle. And it's really nice when you get on the ground. Another lady told us how she's now able to pay school fees because she was able to sell her maize, not just on the platform, but able to grow it. And they also tell us compared to what they were doing before. I don't know what they were doing before, to be honest. It's hard to see life without AgriPredict.
Thanks for that. And I would do my audience a disservice if I didn't talk about technology, because of course we've been talking about the tech, but on the user side, right? Again, for someone listening about small scale farmers in rural areas, you've mentioned I think you've briefly mentioned about how they are able to use your application, but maybe if you could speak to that, because they think, hey, in a rural area in Africa, you have to climb some tree or hill in order for you to have internet connectivity, or you don't even have a smartphone. Like, what does that look like when it comes to small scale farmers actually using the technology that
Absolutely.
AgriPredict has built?
Yes. And this was part of the lessons learned in the pilot. If I take a step back there. So remember I mentioned one of them was poor internet connectivity. The other one is poor penetration of smartphones. So we realized that this service or this technology had to be able to provide this information without internet connectivity and without a smartphone for the times that we're in. Obviously, we'll be getting to different stages later on, but we knew we needed to at least start from that. So we made sure that you just dial our short code via USSD on right now two of the biggest networks. We're still waiting to jump on one more. You just again register with answering 3 questions, and then you are able to access the information. We really wanted to make sure that whatever you can do on an app, you can do on the USSD. So functionality is the same. Of course, there's no pretty images, but the functionality is the same. You can check the weather, you can access markets, you can do all that through whether you have a feature phone or you have a smartphone. The heavy lifting is done on the back end.
Okay. And for someone who's thinking, oh, okay, but now we have Starlink, right? That's available and you can access internet in rural areas. Are we already
Yes.
seeing some impact in terms of positive impact of such technologies in the rural areas? What does that look like?
So for AgriPredict, we are definitely excited because we actually have internet when we go. We actually go with Starlink on the end when we're going these rural areas. So, but in terms of the actual farmer using internet, I haven't seen much of a difference yet. I think there's still a lot of sensitization we need to do for the farmers. And then it's still, I believe they're only putting them in, for example, health centers, right? So it's not completely the whole area. So there's just those specific areas. It's those important areas, healthcare, of course, being an important area. But I haven't seen that drastic shift yet. But I think we're on the right track.
And could it be attributed to the cost maybe of the technology? Because I do know there's that initial investment that a farmer would potentially have to make if they needed to get a Starlink, right?
It is. It is. If I'm first of all, I have to, yeah, the phone, for example, the phone alone is if there's no benefit in it, the farmer will not invest. That has also been something we have learned along the way. Because also people say, Ish, but farmers don't have money. Actually, you'll be surprised. They do have money. They just choose what to spend it on. And if they don't see the benefit of spending on XYZ, I don't need a smartphone because my feature phone works. I don't need to charge it all the time. So I don't need to do that. But interestingly, in the beginning, when we were still on the disease diagnosis service, when we were telling them about this is what it can do, this is the kind of information you receive, a few or a number of farmers actually were asking, where can I buy smartphones from? And they started asking us if we provide smartphones. And at one point, we were focused on getting smartphones in the hands of the farmers. But still, we realized we still needed to focus on USSD, and we just needed to make sure that the benefits were so tangible for the small scale farmer that they would pay for it or they would buy into it.
I love that. I love that. So, and I can only imagine for a farmer, if that's what my livelihood depends on, and I only have maybe one farming season, right? Where I have to grow everything that I need to grow and spend my money wisely to get me to the next farming season. I would be wise into what I actually invest my money, right? And I like the fact that now that they see the value, they're asking, okay, I see the value of this service. How can I now invest or seek the opportunity to have a smartphone so that I can even grow more and hopefully be more productive?
Be more productive, exactly. Which is where the whole concept of creating value that was the genesis actually of it. We realized that if we're not creating value, this is a product that will not be used. And if the farmers don't use it, then there is no value for anybody on the value chain. So they're the key players in this whole puzzle.
100%. And so I've seen that AgriPredict has gained quite some international recognition from the Slush Global Impact Accelerator. We have the TechCrunch, Battlefield Africa. We have being featured on BBC as well, right? So maybe what I would like to find out from that, has this helped you in any way grow and maybe gain credibility? And what would you advise entrepreneurs that are pursuing such opportunities as well to put themselves out there?
Yes, I'll add one more to that. So we also were awarded just 2 weeks. Yes, just I think it's 2 weeks ago we were awarded the MEA African Excellence Award. So MEA is Middle East and Africa Excellent Awards. I know it was yay. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Yes. So what was the question again? I got sidetracked with MEA. What was the?
It's just basically, what would you advise entrepreneurs that are seeking similar opportunities for recognition as they try to pursue, just to be a lot more recognized on a global stage or Africa continental stage?
Yes, good question. I'm not sure seeking is the right.
And should they even be looking at that?
Yes, I was about to say.
Be looking at such.
So I was trying to restructure your sentence in a gentle way. I don't think seeking is the right word, and I would say that the hard work that you put in will show itself at the right time. So I wouldn't work for recognition. No, you can be thrown off easily that way. But the hard work always will show itself at the right time. Nobody goes out looking for these. At least I hope not. These opportunities have been we've been fortunate. Even BBC, I don't know how they heard about us, but they did the story on us. These awards, again, they contact us and say, you've been nominated for this, you have been awarded this. People somehow are watching, but it's really, I think, that the hard work of the whole team as a whole.
Awesome. Someone heard that. Please don't pursue. Let's work hard and create value for our customers and users. That's what gets us the recognition.
Yes.
What has been the most surprising or unexpected part of your journey as a tech entrepreneur in the agri-tech space? I know agri-tech sounds cool, sounds fancy, but what's been the most surprising and unexpected part of your journey?
Wow, we've already mentioned this, but it was surprising how the numbers have grown in a very organic manner. That was surprising. That's not something I thought would happen. I thought we'd need to pump in a lot of money in marketing and things like that to get to the stage we're at. But that it's surprising. It's even though, especially when we talk about, tech, will farmers use it, capable of using it? We've had all these questions asked to us, but the results and the numbers show. So that part was very surprising.
And my final question is, are you currently fundraising? What's the next step or milestone that you're looking forward to at AgriPredict? Or is there something that you are building that's worth mentioning to anyone listening?
Our latest innovation is digitizing the dairy value chain in Southern Province. It has not, we're starting with Southern Province, going national. And I was saying that it's very exciting, very new, very exciting, lots of lessons being learned. But it has not been done at the scale that we've reached yet. So I'm very excited
And
about
what does
that.
digitizing mean? I know I don't want to make assumptions. In reality, what does digitizing
Correct.
the dairy value
Yes.
chain look like?
Basically, I'll tell you our starting point. So where we are is we are working with milk collection centers in Southern Province, where we're able to milk delivery per farmer, per tank, be able to track tests on all the way down to being off taken by the off taker in the area. So basically that whole value chain is what we're digitizing. Again, has not been done before, so it's very exciting.
For a second, I was about to say she's speaking like a consultant, like we are digitizing the value chain, but she's broken it down so simply. And I think that's very important work, Cassandra. And we wish you the best of luck as you seek to put up that work. I think, and I hope it brings about the next stage of growth for AgriPredict, and you see a lot more success.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. It was literally 5 minutes. I don't know where the time went. So thank you so much. You do this so well.
Where can our audience find you? How can they find you? How can they speak to you and learn more about it?
Yes, please. So our website is agripredict.com. I'm on LinkedIn. All our AgriPredict is also on our socials, but I'm only on LinkedIn. And you can contact me that way as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cassandra. And to everybody that has been listening, always grateful that you join us to just learn more about what's happening on the African continent. As we were having conversation today about AgriPredict with the CEO, Cassandra Mtine. Great conversation. Please like, share this particular episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thanks for watching and please join us on the next episode. Bye.